Hi, my name is John Brannon. I'm a graduate student with Liberty University, and in this presentation, one of the things that I will cover is my final project for interpersonal communication, where my professor is Dr. Lois Mayo. During this presentation, the objectives that I intend to cover is to define communication, define interpersonal communication, identify my overarching goal for enlarging my conversation, identify my background and behavioral blends along with my communication assessment, my potential barriers, define the solutions to noise pollutions, my plan of action, then my references. Definition. Definition of interpersonal communication, according to Stewart, refers to the kind of communication that happens when people involved talk and listen in ways to maximize the presence of the personal. The definition of communication, according to Stewart, is the continuous, complex, collaborative process of verbal and nonverbal meaning makings. Definition, according to Lebo, is communication is a key to nurturing the foundation of all interpersonal relationships. In a relationship, a person must be willing to accept the other person's differences. The difference between interpersonal communication and impersonal communication is interpersonal communication is communication that's done within those that are within relationships of some type, be it work, comrades, or close friends or family. Whereas impersonal communication is the type of communication that happens when you might address someone at a gas station or a bank teller. My overarching goal for enlarging my conversation is to become a level 1 listener. A level 1 listener in this particular case is one that is more empathetic to what the speaker is saying. I must show the speaker that I am adamantly concerned about what he or she has to say, and I do this by engaging the conversation while letting them know that I am concerned about what it is they have to say. And in enlarging my conversation, I would have to deal with what my behavioral blend is. Where am I now? Where is it I have to go? And what is it I need to do to maintain that level 1 communication? Here, in dealing with the overarching blend, there are 3 questions that a person has to deal with. What is listening? What does it feel like to really listen to someone? And what does it feel like when someone really listens to you? By answering these 3 questions, the takeaway is A, taking information from a speaker, which is the same as inhaling some people, ourselves, while remaining non-judgmental and empathetic. B is acknowledging the talker in a way that it invites the communication to continue on. The C portion of that is providing limited but encouraging input to the talker, the same as exhaling. These responses carry the person's idea on to the next step, which also invites nexting, the next portion that we will deal with in communication. My goal is to feel more of what the others are saying and what they are feeling when talking to me. According to Berkeley Allen, I can listen better by listening empathetically, refrain from judging, being able to put myself in the other person's shoes, letting myself not be distracted while communicating with them, pay attention, show an okay attitude, listen from the heart, and of course, exercise nexting, doing what is necessary to take the conversation to the next level. In dealing with this, we now need to go to what my behavioral blend was. My behavioral blend came out pretty interesting. According to the categories in the DISC model of the categories, the different types of personality or temperament models of human behavior. The word blend in itself is to describe a person's personality and their makeup, and because it usually encompasses some aspects of different DISC categories. Here we see that in the DISC areas are D is active, task-oriented, I is active, people-oriented, C is passive, task-oriented, and S is passive, people-oriented. Disclaimer is this here. These insights are broad descriptions and their specific personality types. They are not intended to be 100% accurate. This is simply just a brief overview. According to the uniquelyu.com, my behavioral blend is a very interesting one because I have two graphs. And when the two graphs are different, it states that there could be a complication with the person's own identity or a low self-esteem. Don't take that negative, because just because you may have two different graph blends is not necessarily negative, as you will see as we go on. In my particular blend of C, S, and D, on the top line makes me mid-lined. These aspects mean that my listening skills include direct, submissive, and competent. I am emotional about talking to people and what is going on while conversing with them. I also am very direct and I can be demanding. Remember, I said these two graphs are not necessarily negative. It may imply that you may have a difference of your view or your identity, but it's not necessarily so. It means that at the right time, you are able to shift according to what's happening with the ones you're dealing with, which is always a positive aspect. My behavioral blend, it also affects my listening. Positively, my behavioral blend on the CIS positive aspects mean that my listening skills include being competent, compliant. I relate well to most people. I usually enjoy what I'm doing. I enjoy detailed discussions. I respond to the need of individuals in ways that many people never even notice. Also, I am good at avoiding and resolving conflicts. Another portion on my behavioral blend is that we need to pay attention to carbon, as that it is what is expected of me in the IS can be my weakness. It tends to be carrying about from what other people think of me. And those who are more concerned about what others think of them tend to have issues with their self-esteem. Carbonell also states that my ISS can also be too competitive and more absorbing of the problems of life. Some of my potential barriers are perception, reception, attention, hearing what you want to hear, bias listening, and from the list that Berkeley Allen gives, all of these can have negative aspects in being a more empathetic listener. Perception. Perception deals with how I perceive what you're saying to me. I am judging what you're going to say to me before you've even said it. My reception is how I receive what you're saying to me, whether or not if I receive it as peer-to-peer, or if I receive it as you being subservient to me, or if I receive it as you are a superior to me. My attention is how much attention I pay to what you're saying to me. Am I distracted by what's happening around me? Am I distracted by even what's going on with you? Therefore, I'm not really paying attention to what you're saying. Then, of course, we have the problem with people hear what they want to hear. We call that selective listening. Then there's the bias listening. Bias listening means that I have already formed my own opinion to what it is you have to say, which can be very difficult to a person who is trying to become a more empathetic listener. Some of the noise pollutions that I deal with is an important factor to note that from the movie Fireproof by Kendricks in 2008, it was only when the external distractions were removed from both Caleb and Catherine's life that they were truly able to find love again after the 40-day Dare Love test. Internal noise pollution is being distracted from the things that are going on personally and bothering you. And in my particular case, working out, I enjoy loving to work. I enjoy working out. I enjoy working, but I also can get over-inundated in work. So that causes an internal noise pollution. External noise pollutions can be some of the same things. Therefore, becoming more involved in work or being over-inundated in work so that I'm rushing on those things that are going on. So if a person at church is talking to me, I'm more concerned about getting to the next step than hearing out them completely. The answer is always the same. The listener can decide according to Carbonelli. Plan of actions are always important. We need to know how we're going to resolve not only the complications that I might have in communicating or listening, but we need to also deal with the situations of how I'm listening. When I performed the assessment, the communication assessment, I scored 98 out of 100. So it was shocking to me that my DIS level would become considered below mid-level. Well, again, as I stated, that might sound negative, but it is not necessarily negative, because at the appropriate time, I am able to shift to the right position and the right responder to the circumstances that's going on. But in order for me to become a more empathetic listener, these are the steps that I must follow. Focusing skills. I must aim my posturing. I must invite the person to the conversation, as well as let them know that I am invited into the conversation. I must make natural and positive eye contact. Men, when talking with ladies, keep your eyes above the breast line. I must be responsively in my moving. In other words, if I talk with hand gestures, don't touch them, but keep my hands at a comfortable distance that I am inviting the conversation, not interfering with the conversation. Making responsive noises. Okay, that's interesting. And of course, there's the encouraging skills. Pulling more from the speaker. Tell me more about how you feel about this here. Encouraging this person to talk more about what they're feeling. And then there's the mirroring by making phrases that will invite them to talk more by saying, tell me more of that. Then there's also clarifying questions. When you say this, what exactly do you mean? And when you do that, what does that mean? That's very important in communicating. That way you don't take out of context what a person might be saying. I know that this is a lot, but then we come to my plan of action. I must have a plan of action on how I plan to become that more empathetic listener. One of the things that I thought about using was come from Peterson, where he had the talker listener card, and the shifting this card between the talkers and the listeners cause you to pay more attention to what the listener is saying when you are the talker, and the talker paying more attention to the talker when you are the listener. Concentration more is a key at performing a meaningful and active. According to Berkeley Allen, self-conscious listeners pay more attention to what is being said to them. And then, of course, I need to focus my understanding. Let the individual know that I am adamantly concerned about what he or she has to say and what's going on with them. In conclusion, even though my DISC graphs differed, as I said, it's not always a bad thing. It doesn't mean that there's an identity crisis, nor I may have a low self-esteem. It means that my weaknesses can also be my strengths, and my strengths, my weaknesses at the right time when it comes to shifting. Mindful listening is very important. Therefore, to be a more empathetic listener, I must always continue to enlarge in my conversation. Pull the person into the conversation without being overpowering or overbearing to the person in whom I'm speaking with. A quote of my own since 2007 was, people are not as concerned about what you know as how much you care. Jesus asked Peter 3 times, Peter, do you love me? And each time Peter said, Lord, you know I love you. But then Jesus' response to Peter again was a caring one. Feed my sheep. People are more concerned about how much you care than how much you know. My behavioral blend is truly unique in that it causes me to shift appropriately when needed and when the right time for me to be more assertive and more point forward, I can be that way. And when I need to be more compassionate in my listening, I can be that way as well. I truly hope you enjoyed this here presentation that I had the pleasure of being able to bring to you. And I really, really enjoyed this course. And Dr. Lewis, you did an awesome job of encouraging me to continue on with this class. I encourage everyone who's attending Liberty University to take this course. It'll help you because all of us need to become better communicators. Thank you.